welcome to the Tom Baker Show. It is great to have you with us for another episode, and we've got two folks that you're going to be seeing on tonight's show. The first is actually a young man who is moving from guest spot to co-host over the next several weeks here. So we're going to hear from Tyler Dayton in a minute, but we're also going to talk later on with Tim Packman, a veteran of motorsports media and track management and working with teams. Tim and I both have been doing it a long time. So we're going to have some conversation with Tim later on about the current situation with the NASCAR charters. First, however, want to tell you that this show, of course, presented by Track Tune, and you're going to be seeing more from Track Tune a little bit later on. Tyler Dayton is our first guest, and glad to have Tyler on. Tyler actually is a former driver client of mine. Tyler is a championship winner from the Hickory Motor Speedway in the truck division and has run successfully several different divisions. Actually just bought himself a dirt go-kart to get back into it after stepping away for a bit. So we'll talk to Tyler about that a little later too. But first, we're going to have some conversation about some topics that range from NASCAR to IndyCar to a little bit of talk about the 4-wide nationals that just happened at Charlotte. I had the chance to be there, and we'll have some press conference footage from a couple of the drivers to show you as well. Let's start with a little buy and sell, Tyler. First topic, Denny Hamlin. Denny Hamlin, the talk of the NASCAR Cup Garage now. Denny he's hotter than a firecracker on the 4th of July this year. And so far, 4 wins. He's really done a phenomenal job. Here's my question. Are you buying or selling that at this current point in time, as we go into the summer, Denny Hamlin is the favorite to win the NASCAR Cup Series championship?
This current time, I'm going to have to buy.
Yeah.
4 wins this season. He didn't win his first race last year until Kansas. So he's already way ahead of where he was at last year. He only had 3 wins all of last season. So he's already tied his win marker from last year in the first 11 races of the season. So he is incredibly hot right now. Pit crew is the best performing pit crew on pit road right now.
I agree. Yeah.
And he's got some really good racetracks coming up, racetracks that he can easily pick up some more wins at. Kansas Speedway, 4 wins in his career, 1 last year. Gonna have a good shot. Darlington, he's always a threat at Darlington. The past 3 years, he's always been up front. So it's gonna be hard for these other teams to. I mean, Hendrick's right there also. I mean, between Joe Gibbs and Hendrick this year, it's been really just them. So they're gonna have to figure out how to get in front of them, and we'll see how this goes the rest of the season.
It's going to be interesting. I'm going to sell this because I think we're still at a point in the year. Yes, Denny, I would argue that so far, obviously, Denny's won the spring. But I think you mentioned Joe Gibbs. I'm watching Martin Truex right now because that team is starting to get better and better and better as we get into the summer. Martin's another one. Yep. We know he can run for wins at Kansas. We all remember what Joey Logano did a few years ago, right? Martin was on his way perhaps. And we know that he can win at Charlotte. He wrecked a 600 a few years ago, leading all but 6 laps, just took everybody to school, made it one of the most boring races I've ever watched, but it was a great accomplishment for Martin and that team. And I mean, Darlington is such sort of an outlier. You got drivers like Eric Jones that have gotten wins there, and Eric will be back in the seat of the 43 for Darlington as well. So I really feel like I'm watching Truex, but I'm also looking at Hendrick, as you mentioned. William Byron and Kyle Larson are the two I'm really focused on the most there right now. Byron is one of those drivers. I feel like he's got the opportunity between Charlotte and then going forward from there as we go through the summer is where I think Byron's really going to excel. And I would look for William to be in great shape come playoff time. And I think Kyle Larson as well is going to peak. It's interesting because I'm waiting to see what kind of sort of a rebound effect the whole experience of being distracted by the Indy 500 has on Kyle in the races that follow Charlotte. But if Kyle can stay in the groove and keep himself focused, I think we got a shot to see the Hendrick cars right there too. It's interesting that you say it's been pretty much Joe Gibbs and Hendrick, because that's really true. It pretty much has been those two. I don't really know what to attribute that to, except that, we're now, year 3 with the new car. And
yes,
I feel like the cream always rises to the top. The first year, nobody knew what it was going to do. Last year, it seems like, again, still a lot of winners, some new names in victory lane. I think it has, in many ways, it's equalized the field. It's a closer field speed-wise, but the best drivers always find their way to the front, and with the exception of Blaney. I mean, I feel like this year has pretty much all been about Chevy and Toyota, which leads me to the next topic. Let's talk about Ford. I mean, as of the Dover Cup race, Ford, 0. None in 2024. No wins in the Cup Series. Are you buying or selling that Ford should panic right now?
I'm going to say sell. The reason I'm saying sell is because, yes, Toyota also has a new body this year as well as Ford with the dark horse. And Toyota seems to, it's not really, they came right out of the gate strong. So I do think it is concerning for them. No winners. They've been close. Brad Keselowski's been really good the past couple weeks. Pulled out some second place finishes, was good at Talladega.
True. Yep.
Was close there. Noah Gragson, probably the biggest surprise of the season for me so far. He is absolutely exceeding expectations for what people thought he was going to do in that car, coming off of everything that happened to him last season. So they've got the guys getting in the right direction. It's just Blaney was close at Atlanta, so they've had some really tough heartbreaks this season, I think, as well. I think they need a little more time, and I think they're getting better each week, especially some of the Stewart-Haas cars look to have picked up the pace a little bit. So I don't think it's time for them to panic yet. I think if we go a couple more races, then we can have another conversation. We get to halfway in the season and there's no wins, then I think we're all hands on deck kind of position there.
I'm going to agree with you on this one. I'm going to sell it, but I'm also going to say that they ought to be sort of getting ready to panic, right? Like they're on the verge. You are correct in everything you said. Brad's been fast. He's been close. Blaney, obviously, Noah has been arguably the biggest bright spot of all of the Fords this year, and no doubt the biggest surprise and the leader of the Stewart-Haas camp. We've seen a little bit of Briscoe. Josh Berry, nothing special yet. I feel like for the most part, and Preece hasn't really done a lot. I feel like for the most part, Gregson's been leading that camp, and nobody probably would have guessed that going into the year. But as a unit, and again, you've seen some great speed out of Todd Gilliland and of course McDowell at front row. But man, you gotta win. I mean, close only counts in horseshoes, right? You gotta win races. Yep. So I think when you look at the tracks coming up, we talked about how they advantage guys like Hamlin and Truex, and you got the Hendrick cars that are always in there. They're not usually great tracks for Ford. I mean, traditionally, you haven't seen a lot of Fords winning at those tracks. And so I feel like if Ford's going to get hot or they're going to start winning, I think maybe Charlotte, because again, long race, you never quite know what's going to happen there. It's kind of an endurance test. So maybe you see a Ford end up winning there, but I think you're going to see it July forward before we start seeing the Fords. It's really been an interesting year so far for the manufacturers. I think much more so with Ford and Toyota both having new bodies, but Toyota, it seems like, is the only one that's really leaped forward from that so far. So I think Ford is still trying to kind of catch up. Okay, next topic. So Kyle Larson running the Indy 500. And again, this is the month of May. What a glorious time to be a race fan. You know, Kyle trying to do the double. Everybody talking about what his chances are. Buy or sell, Kyle has a better than 50-50 shot to win the Indy 500.
Oh, man. I'm going to say sell.
Ooh.
Just because it is so difficult to win the Indy 500. It's so hard to know where you want to be on the last lap. It's hard to know what's going to happen. It's a long race. He's completely new. I mean, he's not completely new. He's had some time in it now, and he looked fast, at the test, but until he gets out there in traffic, real traffic, and he knows, it's going to be a completely different ball game for him when he's in a full line of cars. I think he's got a chance of running. I would say, really good shot at running top 10. But winning the race, I can't put my chips in on a better than 50-50 shot to win the race.
Okay, that's boy, a lot of fans back and forth already, and we haven't even really opened for business at Indy yet. But I'm buying it. I'm going to tell you why. 2 words: Kurt Busch. Kurt Busch had far less open wheel experience of any kind than Kyle Larson going into his trip to Indy, and Kurt Busch at one point was running in the lead pack and ended up finishing 6th. I think Kyle Larson is in good enough equipment, as Kurt was, to go win the race. Now, obviously, as you say, a lot of little things that Kyle doesn't know yet about running the race, and the trick at Indy is just getting to the end. But I would give him a better than 50-50 shot to win. Now, I'm not saying I'd give him a 75 to 80% shot, but I'll say somewhere 60-40 that he could win the race. Would I put money on him? No. But I think he's going to do better than a lot of people think, and I think his variety of experience in different kinds of cars and his adaptability is what I think is going to help him. So as long as from an endurance standpoint, he can hang in there, and if the car holds together and he's in the mix at the end, we know what kind of magic Kyle Larson can pull. So I'll give him 60. Yeah. I'll say 60-40 on that one. Okay. Real quick. So rumors are spreading about F1 wanting a 4th U.S. race, and I'm hearing Chicago. So here's the buy and sell. Do you buy or sell that a Chicago F1 race is realistic in the next 2 to 3 years?
I'm going to say sell.
Okay.
I don't. With their F1 is confusing me with that. I understand the Vegas thing. Miami, Chicago is a big city, but I don't know. F1's expensive.
Yes, it is. Yes, it is.
All of the races that they do in the United States are all expensive to go to for anybody, even for just Sunday tickets. I don't know if the demographic that they're looking for is I don't know if people are going to be willing to pay to see them there. The amount of money, because I mean, we heard about all the Las Vegas drama with how much it was to even be
packed.
At the Vegas Strip
for the race. They packed it out in the end.
It was.
But you're right. There was a lot of debate about prices. They dropped toward the end. You're right.
Yeah. I'm just not sure that that's the place that they need to be, or if people are going to be wanting them to be there, especially after the Vegas drama, which will put on an okay race, but it was the drama of the whole weekend that, I think kind of turned people away a little bit from it. Not saying I wouldn't, be opposed to seeing it, but I don't know if it's in the cards.
I thought the race at Vegas was phenomenal, but the starting time and all of that, you're right. A lot of things around it that I think they need to fix for this year. I can see personally, I could see Formula One at Chicago on the street course. I'm not sure it's going to happen in the next 2 to 3 years, but rumors are only good if you spread them. So that's why we talked about it. We're going to step aside. When we come back, we're going to talk NHRA and IndyCar. More with Tyler coming up right after this.
Attention track and series owners. Elevate your fan experience with the TrackTune app. TrackTune works with your PA system. Fans and teams at the track can hear the announcers through their phones, ensuring everyone hears race calls, sponsor plugs, and more during race nights. It's simple to set up, affordable, and free for fans to download and enjoy. Visit tracktune.live for all the details and join tracks nationwide on the app today.
Welcome back to the show. We've got Tyler Dayton with us now, and we are going to talk first. Before we go to IndyCar, I want to talk about one article that was out. It's been now kind of copied by several media, but Racing America was the first place I saw it. And the article had to do with Jesse Love, who is one of the top drivers right now, and he's a rookie in the NASCAR Xfinity Series driving for Richard Childress Racing. Now, in the article, Richard Childress himself, who's been around how long now, since almost the beginning of the modern era of NASCAR, and former racer, longtime team owner, he said of Jesse Love, and I quote, "I think you're going to see several championships come out of Jesse Love. He's a brilliant young man, really good young man, and a heck of a race driver. I think he's like a Kevin Harvick. He can drive a race car. He's really young. He knows what he wants. He hates to lose." And that was the attitude that Kevin brought along. He's just a solid race driver. Tyler, you've watched Kevin Harvick. You've watched Jesse Love. What do you make of this? Do you feel like this is a fair comparison at this point? What do you make of it?
Hard for me to agree with at this point, him being a Kevin Harvick. I think he's definitely on the way. If he keeps up, the pace and how quickly he's moving up and how well he's doing. I mean, realistically, he really should have 2 wins this year if he doesn't run out of fuel at Atlanta. But those are also, he's won on 2 drafting tracks so far. He showed signs at some of the, the 1.5 miles and stuff like that, that he's been good. I still think he's learning. I think Kevin Harvick had some pretty early success when he first jumped in. Everybody always talks about when he took over for Earnhardt. Obviously it was Cup, but he immediately went out there and won. So I don't know if I can agree that he is Kevin Harvick yet. But if he's sure, he is young and he is very, very, very good. So in everything, he's got so many different disciplines that he's won races in and championships in. So he's only going to get better. So eventually, I think we'll be having that conversation.
See, I understand why Richard said that, and I think he was comparing Jesse at this point to Kevin at the same point when he first came into with them Busch series. And here's what probably a lot of people don't know Jesse's background really well, but this is a kid who started in the quarter midgets, won a bunch there, went to the USAC Western midgets, which was the focus midget class, and was successful there, was winning late model races against other junior racers in the Madeira junior late model division. I think he won at least one championship there. He's won He's won 2 ARCA West titles, I believe. He won the ARCA National Championship in 10 races last year. But Jesse is also the youngest full midget race winner ever at 13. And he's been very successful in midgets, sprint cars, and of course still runs, 600 micros and midgets and things on the dirt when he has the opportunity. This is a well-rounded, well-grounded young racer. And I think where Richard is drawing that comparison is he's got the same attitude about winning that Kevin had. He's got the same fire in his belly that Kevin had. And we've already seen him in victory lane. Granted, it's, obviously a super speedway, but I mean, again, he could have won at least 1 or 2 other races this year. What you're seeing is a young man who in his first year in Xfinity has been fast everywhere. He's got poles. His learning process has been with live pit stops, which you don't do a lot with at ARCA. And he kind of skipped over the truck series, not of his own doing. So this is really the first year he's had to deal with that sort of thing. And, he's learning against some very, very stiff competition in the Xfinity series. So I actually think I agree with the part about multiple championships. I think Jesse's a contender this year for the championship in the Xfinity series.
I agree with that.
I think he's only going to get better as this year goes on. The second half of the year, once he gets through all the tracks he's never run at before, get some notes, get some experience. Jesse studies very, very, in great detail. He really works hard to learn the craft, and he's humble. I think Jesse Love has got a shot at real stardom, and he's got a 3-year deal. And I think people need to understand that gives him an opportunity. They're in no rush, but boy, you talk about a future potential franchise for Richard Childress Racing. Austin Hill is a great racer, but I think Jesse Love is a star, and I think that's another level. Yeah. So let's move to IndyCar for a minute, because first of all, it's the month of May. Tyler, we've got 2 big races Memorial Weekend, obviously. Coke 600, Indy 500. Which is your favorite race? And of course, we got the Monaco race that starts it all off. Which is your favorite of the 3 and why?
The 600 is definitely my favorite. Just because of it's grueling. I mean, 600 miles in a cup car is, it's no joke for those drivers, and that's a long time to be strapped in, and
for sure,
and moving. Indy 500 is a long race too, but they're going 230 miles an hour, and it doesn't take as long for them to do it. It takes 4.5 hours for the cup race. So, and even longer here the past 2 years since it's been a crash fest. So it's been such a tall. The past 2 years have been awesome races. So 600 just has a special place in my heart with me being a bigger NASCAR fan. But I love the Indy 500. Definitely still my second, probably favorite race of the whole entire year, between NASCAR and IndyCar, and among other racing series.
You grew up here in Charlotte in the area, and so I get that perspective. I grew up in Oswego, New York in the 70s, going to the Oswego Speedway, watching Super Modifieds race. And at that point in time, the Super Modifieds were a stepping stone to Indy. And I watched a number of drivers who raced at Oswego go on to compete in the 500. Gordon Johncock has won the 500 twice. My perspective is there are 3 amazing races that take place on Memorial Day weekend. There's one spectacle, the Indy 500. 300,000 plus people. I've been once, and there is nothing. And I, with all due respect to my friends at Charlotte, and obviously F1's Monaco is beautiful, all of that, but The pre-race for the Indy 500 is like nothing else that you could imagine.
I definitely agree with that.
Unbelievable.
It is.
The electricity, you could cut it with a knife. It's just majestic. So Indy 500 by a mile for me. It's not even close. Love Charlotte though, and looking forward to being there to cover the whole weekend there again this year. But love the part about watching Indy during the day as well. That's fun to do from the Charlotte Motor Speedway, and both do an amazing job of putting on spectacular events that weekend. Okay, IndyCar in general, are you liking the product that IndyCar is putting on the track right now? Are you enjoying it? Why not?
Yeah, I think the racing's been good this season. Been some really good races. I mean, St. Pete was a little, kind of follow the leadery, wasn't a whole lot of passing, but I mean, the past couple races have been really good. I mean, they had that little like all-star kind of private track island event that they did.
Yeah.
I thought that was cool.
Did you? You actually liked that?
Yeah. The last race I thought was good. I think the on-track product has been awesome. They just can't seem to get momentum or get out of their own way right now.
In what way? Are you talking about fan interaction, or what are you talking about?
Yeah, them and they always compete head to head with NASCAR every weekend. The time slots are almost identical.
In a lot of cases, that's true.
And I think that makes it difficult for them to they're putting a great on-track product on. I just don't know how many people are watching.
Well, not enough. I mean, if you look at the ratings, not nearly enough. And I think a lot of the problem is that I still don't think they market well. I don't think they promote well. I don't think that they, I just don't see the commercials for IndyCar races like I see commercials for NASCAR races. And I think IndyCar needs to step up their marketing game. You're right. The on-track product has been pretty good. I'm not a big fan of street courses. There are exceptions. I think Long Beach is great. Toronto's exceptionally good. Not a big fan of St. Pete. Not a big fan of tracks like Belle Isle or even Barber. But the racing, for the most part, has been fairly good. I just think, obviously, the Penske scandal is distracting a lot of people from the fact that it's been, it's been a pretty good season. And that really is a topic for another show. But my only point I'll make about that right now, because I think we're still trying to figure out exactly what it was and how far back it might go and how many races were affected, is if in fact it is discovered that this went back as far as last year, and there seems to be at least some talk that maybe it did, something serious has got to happen. I'm fine with the penalties that they issued for the St. Pete race, if that's all it was. But I don't want to see this glossed over just because this is Roger Penske's series. I think that will leave a bigger black mark than if they investigate it and do it thoroughly enough. But I got to tell you, I think the Indy 500 is the saving grace every year for that series. And no matter how, lackluster or how disappointing a lot of the other races are, the 500 is always going to be the spectacle that sort of saves the IndyCar season. And keep this in mind too. Right now, the IndyCar TV deal is up for renewal for 25, and right now the value about $20 million. Fox and NBC are bidding on it. Here's a thought to think about. How much would it affect the value if the Indy 500 were not included in that buy? I mean,
a lot.
I agree.
Yeah,
I think without the Indy 500, the rest of the IndyCar races, for the ratings, the viewership that they get, I don't think it would be nearly $20 million. I would question whether it be 10.
Do you think them moving start times around to where they weren't directly competing with NASCAR would help?
The problem is there's only so much you can do with that. If you race every race on Saturday, you end up still competing with Xfinity. IndyCar doesn't want to compete with football. Like my take on all of that is, yeah, there's a lot more sort of choices for racing. NHRA and other IMSA can be on at the same time. People can DVR stuff. They can watch stuff later. I just think IndyCar needs to do a better job from city to city and track to track, engaging with the local fans and getting and promoting the drivers better. You've got half a dozen or so drivers in that series that either have podcasts or are part of podcasts. And I just don't feel like they promote them well. We're going to step aside. NHRA is next.
Attention track and series owners, elevate your fan experience with the TrackTune app. TrackTune works with your PA system. Fans and teams at the track can hear the announcers through their phones, ensuring everyone hears race calls, sponsor plugs, and more during race nights. It's simple to set up, affordable, and free for fans to download and enjoy. Visit tracktune.live for all the details and join tracks nationwide on the app today.
Welcome back to the show. We've got Tyler Dayton still with us, and we're going to have Tim Packman coming up, and we're going to talk some NASCAR charter situation. But right now I want to just switch gears completely and talk about some straight line stuff. The NHRA boys and girls were in town in the area here at ZMAX Dragway, Charlotte Motor Speedway, for the 4-Wide Nationals recently, and I had the chance. I was out there Friday and Saturday. I watched Sunday on the TV broadcast. I cannot stress enough how much of a must-see I think the NHRA series is for anyone who has not yet been to a drag race, because to see those cars and hear them and feel them in person is amazing, and some great personalities throughout that series too. Of course, the granddaddy of the NHRA series, John Force, 17-time champion in the series at 74 years old, proved he could still get after it, set a new speed record on Friday, absolutely brought the crowd to its feet, 330 miles an hour, and Tyler, I just can't believe the longevity that this guy has. And you know what? I feel like that now, of course, he's funny because Monster is one of his sponsors, and he'll talk about how much he drinks of it and then say in moderation. I don't think he needs Monster at all. I think John Force runs on pure passion. What do you think about that?
Yeah. I mean, really, the whole Force family runs on pure passion.
You're right.
I mean, they're all winners. I mean, they're all incredible, incredible drivers. But John is just standing the test of time right now.
Yeah.
I mean, as long as I've lived and I've followed any kind of racing, John Force's name's always been there
for sure.
I don't know. I mean, so I think he can keep going as long as he feels like he
really
can. I feel like if he thought that he wasn't going to be able to compete, if he wasn't going to be able to win, he would stop.
Well, I agree.
Because that's just how their family is. So he still clearly feels like he's in a good place physically and mentally to. He's obviously still got good reaction time. Still good off the tree, and I think he's just going to keep going and going.
It's amazing. It's really amazing to watch him. And, I think about how long can he keep it up. Before we answer that question or tackle that question, we've got a little bit of footage from the press conference after his Friday accomplishment.
8 to At 330 miles per hour for a new track record here at ZMAX. Also, one of the 10th quickest runs in NHRA. Right, John, can you just walk us through that run? And did you know that it was going to be the run that it was?
Well, it ran 88 before, and they said they were going to lean on it because conditions were getting better. And Daniel Hood, my son-in-law, but he's teamed up with Cunningham and Fabrizi, and they leaned on it and said, hang on. And that's what I did, and they were right. It ran quicker than they thought. So, but luck's a big part. It was right in the spot where it moved on me, and I thought I was going to lose it, but it hung on. So I feel really good about it, and come back tomorrow and see what we can do tomorrow.
You're such a seasoned veteran out here. Do you still get that feeling of getting thrown back in the seat when it's on a run?
Yeah, they pull me down really tight in the seat, because if you crash, I've hurt myself before because I wasn't tight, and I always make myself. But yeah, it's a thrill. It's a deal, and you sit there sometimes in the staging lanes wondering, what am I doing here? And then you run like that, and then you understand why. It's not always good things that happen. I was very lucky to have sponsors like Peak and Chevrolet and Auto Club and Monster. I named them all earlier. But then you want to come down here, and you're no spring chicken, and you see a guy like Hendrick that's done so much in NASCAR, and he gives you an opportunity. He's got this kid, Anderson, that has just always been great in my eyes, and he gives us a shot, even though he's with my daughter, Brittany. She's the future, and Proc, naturally. But for me to pull one out for him, for his company, HendricksCars.com, I'll finally get it right. They said the blower belt came off at the other end, shut the car off early, and might have run a little bit quicker maybe, but felt good. Only that when it moved. So I'm very blessed that I can still do this, and I was struggling with. I didn't get my new glasses. They made them wrong at the last race, screwed me up for life, and I went back to wear my old ones. And Daddy doesn't like me to because they're too big and they hit in the helmet. And I finally said, "You're my crew chief. I'm going to take them off." And I ran without them, and I seemed to do okay.
As a follow-up, what I was trying to say is that you've made so many runs down the drag strip. Can you really tell, or did they all feel the same, or?
No, that was fast. It was fast. In fact, the way it left, I don't feel sitting back in the seat, but it's just a feeling, a sensation, like when the car moves. How do you turn it so quick? You don't even think about it. It's just seat of the pants, seat of the butt. You just turn it and fix it. And is that a word? I don't know if that's a word. But I've always driven that way. So I can tell it's fast. I can't tell you how fast. Couldn't tell you it's slow ET. I'd be lying if I said that. But it felt like it was going to be good. And we just wanted to be consistent, go down the track again. You get a new sponsor, you want to perform. And he was at his daughter's, granddaughter's, graduation. He wasn't able to get back, but all of his people were here a little bit earlier. So, hey, we held our own as a 3-car team, and we'll see where it goes. But I'm proud for me mentally, because every time something goes wrong, it's just the way people look at you for your age, and they should. You know what I'm saying? And then I pull it out of the hat. But you got to give them credit. The team really supports me, and you look at a young kid like Brock, comes in here, has so much energy, you know what I mean, and drives good, and he's the future, like Brittany. And I'm not the future. I've done my time, but I'm still loving it. I'm going to do some more, and you're not going to get an announcement out of me. When I'm gone, I'll jump the fence, and that'll be the end of it. So I always said that's how I'll go. I don't like goodbyes. Don't like getting emotional. I'm a very emotional guy, and when the good Lord tells me it's time, and but after that, well, changed my mind. He'll stick around a little bit.
Just remember, Moses didn't part the Red Sea until he was 80 years old.
Yeah, but I'm 180.
That was John Force, and just watching him there and listening to him again, he's not lost the passion for it. How long? I mean, do you think is it reasonable to think he could still do this in 5 years?
Yes. The reason I say that is in 2018, there's a very well-known top fuel driver he's still going. I don't think he's racing anymore, but Chris Karamsini raced, he was early on top fuel racer. In 2018, he was 86 years old and went 305 miles an hour and made it to an elimination round.
At 86?
Yes.
Wow.
86 years old, and he made it to an elimination round in an official NHRA event in a top fuel drag.
Incredible.
So that just shows, I mean, NHRA seems to be a good place for longevity. I mean, if you want to just keep going and going, that's a really good example of, if you've still got the passion and the drive and you're still in good enough shape to do it, why stop?
Well, all fair points. You got folks like Doug Coletta who've been racing a long time, Schumacher. I mean, so many of these racers are, old veteran racers. I probably shouldn't call them old, they'll all get mad at me. But I mean, they've just been around a long time. You don't see a lot of youth at the top levels, but you are starting to see some creeping up in the lower levels, which I love. Just absolutely amazed at John Force. And I want to switch gears here a little bit and talk about another driver who is a rookie. Okay, in Tony Stewart. My gosh, I mean, to see him compete at the level that he's at, and to see him get out there and get after it the way that he does, he's made finals. He's done so well this year already. I mean, can you believe Tony making the transition? I think this has to be the most difficult transition he's ever made to be able to go to the top of the NHRA board, basically, and race against the best of the best going straight because it's so technical.
Yeah, I mean, there's such a focus, a different mindset that you have to be in to be a good drag racer compared to a cup driver, even an IndyCar when he did IndyCar stuff. It's so reaction based. It's so just technical, like you said. Especially, the learning the tree is just the hardest thing that I think, and one of the hardest things to do in racing is learn to play the tree and learn to run the tree correctly. And you never stop trying to improve on that. That's, it's the difference maker. So, and I feel like he's done an excellent job of just learning and researching, and I think he's put all of the research and he's got really good resources as well, helping him out.
His wife, to begin with.
Yeah, absolutely. Yeah. But I feel like he's just going to get better as he goes, and he's going to be a real big. He's a threat now, but I think you're going to see a lot more of Tony Stewart. In NHRA.
He loves it, and he's really adapted to it. And we had a chance to listen to him talk a little bit about the routine and some of the things he's had to learn. And let's take a look.
This sport is very different. This drag racing is on Fantasy Island over here. It's like every day I feel like when I go through the gate, there's going to be Tattoo in the white tuxedo going, "Welcome to the races today." So, but it is drastically different here, and it's not necessarily about what you do when the light changes till you get to the line. It's procedures that you have to learn, and it's the cadence of the procedure and doing everything exactly the same every time. That is what is most important. You go through here and talk to all these crew chiefs and say, from driver to driver, what's the most important thing you want to see out of them? And I would bet you the majority of them are first thing they're gonna say is being consistent. When I drove Leah's car the first time, my procedure of getting staged was 10 seconds slower than hers. Well, that 10 seconds burns another gallon of fuel. Nitromethane weighs 10 pounds a gallon. So we took 10 pounds of nose weight. You know, I took 10 pounds of nose weight out of the car by how slow I was staging. He goes, as long as you do it the same, I can tune to that. So they can add an extra gallon of fuel. But taking care of the clutch and the cadence of everything, you have people around you while you're controlling a 11,000 plus horsepower car. You have people in front of the tires, behind the tires, wiping the tires, pushing the car that you're responsible for, and I can't see any of them because they're all behind me in the dragster. So there's just a lot of responsibility. There's a lot of stuff procedure-wise that doesn't have anything to do with what those numbers on the scoreboard do or whether you turn the wind light on. But it's just a lot of things that you have to learn that are different. But when you get to hit the gas, that's the cool part. We all joke about it because they always think, oh, you love the burnout, don't you? I'm like, no, burnout doesn't do anything for me, which everybody gets excited about burnouts for some reason, but it looks cool. It looks great, exactly. You know, it looks great on TV. But it's like, for me as a driver, my whole life I was taught to not spin the tires. So you're going from don't do that to please do that. So it's quite a bit different here, but it's, you know, like I say, that sub 4 seconds that you run, I told our cup drivers, I said, when you guys make split-second decisions, for the less than 4 seconds that I run, I have to take your split-second decisions and make split-second decisions out of that. That's how fast we have to make decisions here and it's not just steer left or steer right or get out of it. It's when something happens, your brain has to have the ability to quickly make a decision of, can it drive through this? Do I pedal this or do I just abort the run altogether? And you have to do that in such a small amount of time. It takes me, Lee gets mad, it takes me 10 minutes to figure out where I want to go eat. I don't have that luxury here. I'm going to make that decision really quick when something happens, and that's something that until you do it and until you're a part of it, you don't know what you don't know.
So Tony definitely has, he is all in, and that's what's so incredible to watch is how focused he is and how much he's learned and how much he's absorbing every time he gets in the car. It's amazing. Okay, want to talk about the NHRA and in relation to. It's the only major series where your ticket's a pit pass. Now, we can't have 100,000 fans at Daytona, flocking into obviously hanging out in the garage area during the 500. But why are we not seeing more fans? And what would it take for them to get you? Because it's your age group. What would it take for them to make going to an NHRA race a must-have, must-see for Tyler Dayton at his age?
Yeah, I don't know. I have been to an NHRA event before, so the experience is awesome compared to everything I've ever done. I've had hot passes, stuff like that. Being in the pits, you don't get to really see a whole lot, especially on race day. You don't really get to see a whole lot.
At a NASCAR race you're talking about?
As a fan. At a NASCAR fight. Yeah, at a NASCAR race, especially if you go on Sunday, the chances that you see a driver before driver intros is very, very slim to none. But walking around the NHRA paddock, I mean, you can get up close and personal with the cars, when they're doing their test runs, everything. And there's drivers. It's a lot easier to meet drivers. I don't know if it's the same thing as the IndyCar thing. I don't know how well they market to people. I don't see a whole lot of NHRA stuff either. Ads or commercials, anything like that. So I feel like they also have to do a better job of trying to market to people, to younger fans, maybe more special events, stuff like that, where people can come out and interact with the cars. And
I feel like first of all, it's the most accessible form of racing, right? Because you can take your streetcar and go to the local drag strip and take it down the track and compete. So I have to 100% agree. I think NHRA needs to do a way better job of marketing directly to your age group, because that's the future. And I think also, again, putting more advertising in general into this, because I'd say we had, I'm guessing here, but I'd say probably 85-90% capacity filled at Charlotte. Saturday and Sunday, we had a beautiful weekend once you got past the little rain shower on Friday where it got cool. But Saturday and Sunday were great. But I don't understand why we're not doing even better. And people have said, why aren't the ratings better? And here's my reaction to that. I don't think TV does it justice. I think it doesn't. There's no way a camera is gonna catch the speed. You cannot smell. You cannot feel it. You have to be there in person. All of motorsports is experiential. I think it's always better in person, right? But NHRA especially, because you can stand at the fence, or sit in the stands near the starting line, and boy, when they light off, I mean, it'll shake you off your spot. I mean,
it's absolutely the most insane thing I've ever seen in person. You can't even describe it to people, the feeling and the sound and the everything. It is something that you have to go and experience, and I think that's something that they need to market better. That it's something you have to come and see.
And again, put the personalities out there too. Again, a lot of crazy personalities in that form of racing.
John Force being one of them.
Being the captain, right? I mean, is there a more entertaining and easy to do interview in motorsports than John Force? It literally is, hey, John, what's up? And then you just sit back. He'll give you about 45 minutes, right? I mean, that's, John is, whenever John decides to call it quits for a career, I don't know if you could ever possibly hope to fill that void. There's only one John Force.
there'll only ever be
incredible.
one John Force.
I love NHRA. I thought they did a great job all weekend long at Charlotte. Just it's so exciting to be there and experience that in person. So thankful for the opportunity to go do that. And we're actually going to step aside. When we come back, we're going to talk to Tim Packman. Tyler, been great to have you on, and we look forward to having you on next episode as well, joining us as kind of a co-host, and we'll talk to you soon, buddy.
Absolutely. Thank you for having me.
Attention Track and Series owners, elevate your fan experience with the TrackTune app. TrackTune works with your PA system. Fans and teams at the track can hear the announcers through their phones, ensuring everyone hears race calls, sponsor plugs, and more during race nights. It's simple to set up, affordable, and free for fans to download and enjoy. Visit tracktune.live for all the details and join tracks nationwide on the app today.
Welcome back to the Tom Baker Show. It is always fun to be here on PowerTube TV, and want to say a special thanks to the good folks at TrackTune. You've been seeing and hearing from them throughout the show, and we couldn't do it without them, so we really do appreciate it. If you have a track or a series, make sure that you go to tracktune.live and go to Facebook, send them an email or send them a Facebook message, and check out how TrackTune can enhance your fan experience by allowing the announcers and the teams to hear all the stuff from the PA right through their phone. We have Tim Packman with us, and gosh, I was thinking about how to introduce Tim, and the best I could come up with, Tim, was basically a jack of all trades. You've done media, you've written books, you've managed racetracks, you've worked with teams, you've done a little bit of everything, and you're great at all of it. Happy to have you, and thought that this would be a great opportunity for us to talk about a topic that I know is huge right now in the world of NASCAR. which is the charter situation. The fact that the NASCAR's charter program with the teams, the agreement is up at the end of this year. We've been hearing little things on and off about how the negotiations are going and what both sides are wanting and thinking about. But I thought it might be good, Tim, would you just sort of, for the folks who may not be real well versed in exactly what the charter is and how it all works, would you give us a couple of minutes of education?
Sure. So in 2016, the charter system was implemented. So teams would have a guaranteed revenue, guaranteed starting position, and they issued 36 total charters. Now, some teams had 2, some teams had 4, some had 3. So that's how it started. Of those original 19 teams that had them, more than half of them are no longer in the charter system. They've been sold, or they've sold their charters, and now the charter value has gone from 5, 6, 8 million to 35 to 40 million for people that want to get in. And now BJ McLeod reported he sold his Live Fast Motorsports. He sold his, and he is sitting pretty good now. So that's just an example of that. So the current breakdown of the charter system, the revenue is this is all based off the TV money. The teams get 25% of the TV money. The track gets 65%. So people say, "Oh, there's no one in the stands." The tracks are like, "Okay, yeah, we see that. Attendance was low, but they still get that 65% of TV money. They're still guaranteed." NASCAR gets 10%. So you might say, "Oh my gosh, NASCAR gets only 10%. How unfair?" Hang on. They get the ticket revenue.
Exactly.
They get the licensing fees. They get the concessions. They get the race sponsorship, track sponsorship. That's shared between NASCAR and that. Every week is an entry fee. Let's say it's $3,500 for a Cup team. Now the charter system's only a Cup. That's it. Only place it's been. So they do that. So the new TV package that starts in 2025 next year is coming at $7.7 billion with a B, as in Buffalo Bills. B.
Yeah.
That's an increase of about 40%, Tom. So now you've got this whole big mother load of money coming in through the charter system, and the teams are saying, we want to make the charters permanent because we want to know if we pay, I'm just going to $35 million for this charter, we want to know that it's going to be good forever. Michael Jordan came out the other day. You know, Michael Jordan carries a little bit of weight as a team owner, winning team owner. He said the way the existing, it's all set up, the sport's going to die the way it is right now. It's not enticing new companies to come in, new sponsors to come in like, hey, all right, we're going to give you $10 million a year towards your team. But, okay, then they want to know their investment isn't just going to be like around for 7 years and disappear. So that's kind of where that whole thing that they're looking at. And they're looking for longevity. Jeff Gordon has come out and said that Hendrick Motorsports has not been profitable in years. Now, I don't know if they mean profitable in the aspect from race revenue.
Yes.
Because, they're selling a lot of merchandise, but they sell some of their own. But NASCAR also sells a lot of merchandise. So they're 10% of TV money. Oh, poor NASCAR. Well, just in sponsorship alone last year, I looked this up, NASCAR brought in $425 million just in sponsorship deals.
Wow. Almost $500 million.
Throw back in.
That's crazy.
Yeah. Think about that. Yeah. So they're excited, and they get their merchandise, they get their concessions. There's all part of the pie. Dale Jr. has said, as a team owner in the Xfinity, he said they about break even. So what's keeping these teams going? It's what we talked about, the revenue from non-racing related entities. So it could be 60-80%. I'm going to say 75% of the revenue from the teams comes from sponsorship. So they are heavily relying on the sponsorship. Now NASCAR says this new deal, they would involve Fox, TNT, Amazon Prime, and NBC. This is all just Cup. Those deals should solidify the team's financial future for a long time coming, and they will enable them to compete at higher levels. Because you can see right now, you have the haves and the have-nots.
Sure.
You can see every weekend. A lower budget team might jump up in there and get a top 10, 15, or 20. But normally it's going to be your Penske's, your Childress is popping up there now, your Hendrick, and your Joe Gibbs Racing. Those are your winners. pretty much every week.
So let's look at this, because as I think you would agree, it's interesting because the public posture of NASCAR is, oh yeah, we're close, we're getting there, but I feel like, and tell me if you get the same sense, that it's really not that close. They're miles away right now. And now I know I personally don't know all of the obstacles or the issues that they're disagreeing on. I don't know how much more you know about it inside the Beltway than I do, but it appears to me that number one, I think there are a portion of the teams, at least, that seem to want, as you mentioned from Michael Jordan, a completely new business model. And it seems like Jim France has sort of made some statements recently about, we just like the old one, and we're kind of going to keep doing that. Okay, Tim, my question to you in a minute or two is, where do you see this going, and how far toward the end of the season could we get? Does NASCAR, is this going to be a take it or leave it? And how could that work? Because I feel like neither side has more leverage than the other, because both sides need each other.
Right. So you have four main players: Gordon, Steve Alpern, the guy Newark from RFK, and a lawyer that they're bringing in. They're the negotiators for the RTA, right, the Race Team Alliance. Jim France says, I want people that'll be there with me, meaning they're committed to me. All right, I'll commit to you. And they had a meeting scheduled last year. None of the teams showed up because they knew the only thing they were going to talk about was, the TV deal, the money. So now he's meeting with teams individually who are expressing like, okay, well, if they want to work with me, commit to me, then I'll commit to them. So he has flat out said that the impasse is on permanent issuing of charters. To which I say to myself, okay, but NFL, NHL, Major League Baseball, they have ownership in place that guarantees those teams are going to compete. You want those teams to be guaranteed to compete, so sharing in the revenue makes it profitable, or not profitable, but business sense, that you know who the players are going to be each and every year. Imagine if they did this once a year and you're like, oh, who's going to be the new in the charter this year? You need to have teams committed so they can plan for the future.
My question, though, on the other side of that, Tim, and you may have a different perspective than I do, but I feel like one of the problems with the charters being permanent is that obviously with only 36 charters, the value is sky high. Now, the other side of that is, if you're Honda, or your Hyundai, your Kia, you're a new manufacturer and you want to come into Cup, are you coming into Cup and investing the hundreds of thousands of dollars, millions of resources that needs to be invested and built in order to compete at the Cup level and compete for wins and championships without a charter to guarantee your starting spot? I mean, I feel like that motorsports is different from the NFL and the NHL. Those sports only want a certain amount of teams. I feel like NASCAR wants as many teams and manufacturers involved as possible. Now, F1, they have kind of a charter, but you can't sell your charter or lease your charter. Basically, you're selling the team. And in NASCAR, it's a little different. It works slightly differently, I feel like, where the charter can be sold, leased, whatever. How do we get more manufacturers and more new teams in without adding the charters? And how, if you add to the charter count, does the value go down? How does that help the current teams? I feel like that's maybe one of the impasses they're at.
Okay, so here's the deal. You take a team that might not be happy with Ford, Chevy, or Toyota and go, hey, Honda's coming in. Remember when Dodge came in? They threw all that money at Ray Abraham. They were successful. Dodge has since left the sport. So let's just use Honda. Honda comes in like, okay, we're gonna Joe Schmo team there. You don't think you're running really well with that no factory support. We will give you factory support if you will be our leading team. There you go. So it's not keeping manufacturers out. It's trying to decide which teams would come on board with that new manufacturer. that currently
So
have charters.
your theory is that new manufacturers are not going to start their own teams. We're not going to see more new teams. Your theory is a new manufacturer is going to go after an existing team that already has charters. But how many times can that happen? How before we're sort of out of teams who want to go? You can only have, right? How does that work?
Yeah. You got to find one team. Okay, let's use a Rick Ware Racing. He's a Ford team right now, and all the stuff he's involved with. If Honda came to him and said, "Hey, Rick Ware, we would like to back your team, your 2 Cup teams, and we will give you all the manufacturer support you have." Rick's taking a risk because Ford's through his whole team, the drag race and everything else. But pretend that's not there. Let's just say he's just a 2 Cup team, and they say, "Oh, great, we're going to now give you the financing to be more competitive."
It's interesting. I don't know how many teams would be in play and how many manufacturers we can bring in before we run out of smaller teams. But that certainly is something I think that needs to get discussed, because I feel like the idea of the smaller teams benefiting from the charters. I know Tommy Baldwin was one of the staunchest supporters of charters. And within a year or two, I think, of the charter coming into existence, Tommy was gone. And so I just feel like we're going to have to deal with this sort of balance of charters versus new manufacturers. I think that's going to be a conversation piece going forward. Do you feel like we get to the last race at Phoenix without an agreement?
You can't do that because I'm ABC Supply or something like that, and I want to invest in a Rick Ware Racing. Okay, I want to commit to a 3-year sponsorship. Okay, they don't know what to say to, I don't know if we're charge them. They don't know to say, "Here's your investment," because they don't know what they're going to have to work with coming from the TV deal and from NASCAR. I mean, purses aren't in there, and the revenue's up if you're one of the charters, and you're guaranteed all the the money, how you perform, your last 3 years of performance. They base it on that. So every team wants to do well over a longer period of time. So they invest in the charter, hoping that their revenue will increase as time goes on based off their performance.
Do the teams get what they want?
But you can't go to the end of the year. You have to this has to get done. I'd like to say before the playoffs. If they go any deeper than that, then it's becoming someone's going to push and shove. But let me remind you, NASCAR is owned by NASCAR and the France family. They have the product. The teams need the product to keep their business going and to stay in racing, but they just don't know what revenue they're going to have to work with going forward, because you got some pretty fat salaries to look at down the line too, with guys under 2 and 3 years.
I think it's going to be fascinating to watch this summer as this plays out.
Yeah,
for sure.
I'm watching it. I've been watching it. Yeah, it's going to be interesting. I want to see who flinches
For sure.
first,
It'll be definitely bear watching. And Tim Packman, want to thank you for taking the time to come on, and look forward to having you back soon to talk some more NASCAR and other racing.
Yeah. No problem. Give me a call anytime. Appreciate it. Good luck with your
Thank
show.
you.
Great.
And that's Tim Packman. And thanks also to Tyler Dayton. And thanks, of course, to the folks from Track Tune for more exclusive content and stories. Join us at steeringwheelnation.com, and, of course, our page on PowerTube's website at watchpowertubetv.com. Follow us on Facebook, Instagram, and Twitter at The Wheel Nation, and, of course, Steering Wheel Nation on LinkedIn as well. And that wraps it up for this week's edition of the Tom Baker Show. Hope you enjoyed it. We'll see y'all next week. Thanks for watching.
Like this show? Want more? Then head to WatchPTTV.com, the new 100% free PowerTube TV streaming network. Home of the best classic and new motorsports racing and build shows on the web.